All right, welcome, friends. Well, we're going to try this again. This is the second attempt getting this live going tonight. Hazen Stevens, our pastor, join me. Just want to welcome those that are jumping in, and there he is. Woo! Second time is a charm.
Sorry, everybody. Apparently, I haven't updated my Instagram in a minute. I had to
Well, there you
exit
go.
and update, and then now we're good. So,
Instagram Live, I mean, that was like everything in 2020 when we were in COVID. And I haven't done one in a hot minute, but we started doing them for the conference. And so, anyhow,
well, you
glad
did a
you're
great job at that extended intro, Billy. You just kept it rolling, kept it fresh, kept it going.
keep talking until it comes through. There's Sunbird. What's going on? Angel, good to see you guys all joining in tonight. Buckshot, what's going on? All right. Well, here we are. We're talking about the Presence Center Church Conference. We're talking about the 20th anniversary of Night and Day Worship and Prayer at Gate City. Of course, it's February 8th through 12th, and every night that week, we have something special. We have Gen Z night on February 8th. We have 818 with Will and Haviland Ford on February 9th. And then our Presence Center Church Conference starts with Michael Miller and Aaron Tedeschi leading worship from Upper Room. The next night is Brian Williams with Gate City Worship. And then our final night, our dear friend Corey Russell bringing the word with fire on our 20th anniversary. We're going to have literally hundreds of pastors and leaders and dear ministry friends from all over the country here with us. And so we just wanted to take a minute. I wanted to take a minute and get Hazen on here with us. And for those of you that don't know Hazen, we've been running together for 19 years, 18 years.
Yeah, 19. We're coming up on
19
19.
years.
I mean, 20, really. 20 years. It was 19 years. It'll be the 20th anniversary, will be 19 years I've been on staff in
Yeah,
some
that's
capacity.
unbelievable. But Hazen is the senior pastor at Gate City Buckhead, which is our first church plant that we are expanding from. With Gate City, we have now Lawrenceville and Buckhead, and planted it earlier this year. And the church is about 100, a little over 100 people, and just going really well. You and your wife, Hannah, are leading that team. But man, here we are coming up on our 20th anniversary. I mean, so many memories. I was getting on this live thinking about so many times that you and I have traveled someplace, and your favorite thing to do when we travel is to troll me and poke at me, and I just love that. That just makes my heart happy. All
Is
those.
is that what you want to? Is that the direction you want to
Yes,
go
that's
with
where we're
this?
gonna go tonight.
Great, we can do
Troll
that.
City. No, actually,
Wherever you want to go, Billy. Whatever you'd like to discuss tonight, I'm
which is
happy to
exactly
serve
how
and
you troll me.
oblige. Happy to do that,
That's how he does it. He does
sir.
it. He acts just like that and calls me sir, and he knows that's not my preference. All right, so here it is.
Yes,
Talk
sir.
about talk about 20 years of night and day worship and prayer. What has that meant to you? What's God done in you? I mean, you've led every capacity of our church, led in the prayer room in every way. Just share anything, how 20 years, what it has meant for you and in your relationship with God and in other ways.
Yeah, I remember when we were visiting a church, my wife and I, at the time we were dating, and we heard about this place where they're open with worship and prayer 24/7. And we had been visiting this church because neither of us had grown up in expressions of the church that
Mm-hmm.
had a freedom of the spirit or teaching on the gifts of the spirit. And so we were excited to be in our first communities that were charismatic. And then we heard about this place, the International House of Prayer, where they were open night and day with worship and prayer. And I was finishing my last semester of college, and we said, okay, we've got to go check this place out. And I remember coming in the middle of the night one late evening. And I mean, it wasn't the middle of the night, it was probably like 11 o'clock or something. And I wanted to see, like, is it really true that
Yeah.
there's someone here, worshiping Jesus night and day? And it was a season of my life where I'd come out of a lot of brokenness. I'd surrendered my life in a fresh way to Jesus. And I was just hungry for God. And we've said many times over the years, part of the vision for the prayer room was a place that broken young men could come and find peace and sanctuary and freedom from oppression, and a place to worship Jesus in the middle of the night. And I was that young man as a college student that needed that place to go and meet with Jesus and work through my brokenness. And I found that in the prayer room. And what shocked me, I'll never forget the sense of the richness of the presence of God with just one person leading worship from a keyboard at the front of the room. And at that time, we weren't on Collins Hill. We were all the way over at Indian Trail in
Yeah.
the church that we
City
shared with
Harvest
another
Church.
church. Okay, I don't even remember we were only there for a short time when I was visiting, but I remember distinctly feeling the sense of, okay, there's more of the presence of God. And I, even for one of the first times in my life, could say I felt the discernible presence of angels in the room. And I was
Wow.
like, I think I just had this wild thought. I was like, I think there are more angels in here than there are people.
Yes, Lord.
And and I was like, if that's really true, I want to be around this place some more, and
Yeah.
like I want to be in the kind of place where the atmosphere of heaven is so potent and rich. There's more of the activity of God than there's the activity of people.
Mm,
And I know both are precious, but I think you
of
you
course.
understand what
Yeah.
I mean by sharing that story. And just oftentimes we talk about how it can feel so little, rough and ugly, in the sense that it's not this high production experience, the prayer room. And especially in those days, it was like, okay, it's just a person on the keyboard singing their heart out to Jesus. Man, it was rich and beautiful in the spirit. And I just remember being captivated by it at the heart level, and captivated by Jesus in the experience of it. And so that was kind of one of my first real clear, like, I remember being struck by the experience of coming in the prayer room as a college student, a young man. So,
It's interesting because I had Mary Beth and I had lunch with a young lady today, and she's 21. And she literally came a year and a half ago in the middle of the night to the prayer room. She literally just searched online, 24/7 church. And she said the reason why she came was on her birthday. She said the reason why she came, she wanted to have that God feeling she remembered from when she was a kid going to
mm,
church. And so she comes, and about 3 months later, she keeps coming. She starts coming to the prayer room, then she starts coming to our young adults. And about 3 months later, she makes a profession of faith, gets baptized. And that was a little over a year ago. And today, like, she's testifying about how God has just moved in her life and how
mm,
he's just done works of sanctification and changed her heart, changed her mentality, like just beautiful, beautiful testimony how the Lord met her, drew her into his love, and she's on a discipleship journey now. But it's that same thing. Like, where can a young person go and find healing, deliverance, salvation? Where is that available? And man, to have 24/7 worship and prayer, I feel like it's a gift to us as much as it's a gift to anyone else. Like I literally just came out of one of our worship sets with two of our favorites, Sarah Pearl and April Henry, and they're in there and they're singing about the faithfulness of the Lord and staying true to the Lord through storms and the winds of God. I'm going to catch the winds. I'm going to catch the winds. And they're singing this prophetic song. And I'm just over there standing in the corner, just worshiping. And there's 10 or 15 people in the room or whatever, but it's just beautiful. And to have this as a sanctuary and a place that God's given us, and just the wonder of it all, that 20 years later, are you kidding me? Like, really? Like, the sustained in the grace of God, and just super, super grateful. So share a little bit about what's going on with Gate City Buckhead, because I mean, we planted that church in February, and it's been years in the making, and you guys worked so hard for the last year plus up to this February to get it launched. Just share a little bit about what's going on in Gate City Buckhead, because we feel like it's the first of several that the Lord's going to give us around the city.
Yeah, it's been the most challenging work of my life and the most fulfilling and joyful. And so
You mean to tell me church planning is hard? Huh.
it is
Wow.
incredibly hard and fulfilling and joyful. and
Yeah.
and to see lives transformed, just like you were talking about, by the presence of God, by prayerful community, by discipleship, is so satisfying and so wonderful. And so yeah, so like you mentioned, we'll celebrate in February as Gate City celebrates 20 years of 9-day worship and prayer. We'll celebrate 1 year of having been in existence
Yeah.
since our formal launch.
Yeah.
And we've taken that same DNA of prayer that was so captivating to me when I was 21 years old, and we've infused a church plant expression with that DNA. And so it looks a little different. In our prayer expression looks a little different because we don't have a physical prayer room. We're gathering and convening daily in small groups to pray together, but the format of prayer that we're using is the exact same things that we've trained and done in the prayer room for 20 years, which is enjoyable prayer, God-centered prayer,
Mm-hmm.
combining worship and prayer together, but in a unique virtual expression. And so I'm mentioning that because one of the things that people told me is they said you can't both be prayerful and missional. Like you're going to have to choose to lean one way or the other because it's so hard to try and do both. And I don't deny that it's been incredibly hard to try
Right.
and do both. Like the people that shared that with me, if you're listening or you ever hear this, you
Mm.
are not wrong. You are not
Right.
wrong. You are not wrong. But what we've discovered is the question is not whether something's difficult, it's whether it's biblical,
Or whether it's right. Yeah.
whether it's right in God and whether it's biblical.
That's right.
And we know that the one who's the Lord of the harvest, he's also the great intercessor. We've said that
Yeah.
for as long as I've been around the house of prayer. And so even those two things can tend to compete against each other. Our missional emphasis, how do we reach the world out there, and our internal formation in prayer and deep devotion, even those two things can sometimes feel in tension. We know that God gives us the wisdom to know how to navigate that tension of being a priestly and a missional people. And so it's been amazing to see people come to church for the first time. Like there's a young woman I'm thinking of, came to church for the first time, made a commitment to Jesus, came to church the second time, we gave her a Bible, came to church, and by the third time, now she's in a prayer meeting every single week and she's joined a prayer team
Yeah.
and she's having her life transformed because she's willing to commit to a community of prayer. And it's being transformed by the people around her, but most importantly, it's being transformed by that vertical connection with Jesus, heart to heart. So,
You and I meet every week. We talk about the church plant. We talk about the community. We talk about the discipleship strategies. We talk about the prayer room. We talk about the finances. We talk about all the myriad of things that you experience when you're planting a church. And for those of you out there that have a heart to plant a church, like it's a noble work in the kingdom of God. Like multiplying local churches, it's a noble work. But we talk every week about this and doing it from a culture of prayer, doing it around a framework of altar, table, road, with the love of God carrying all of it, right? And so this is our conversations. But I want to tell on you a little bit. I think probably every other week, maybe that's a little aggressive. Maybe every third week at the least, uh, we have a conversation about somebody whose life's being changed, somebody who's like this. I knew you'd come up with a testimony here shortly, but like someone like this whose testimony is God is changing their life. But how many times? So I get a testimony like that probably every other week. I would say at least every other week. But the thing that I was going to tell on you about is it doesn't just come with it's not just a testimony. Like it touches something in you that's so profound, and it comes with tears.
mhm.
And I just think who you are as a shepherd, as a pastor, as an evangelist, someone with an apostolic calling to see the church multiply. It's so true, pure. It's so good. And anyway, just would you speak out of that a little bit, like what that means to you to be able to touch that place and call people into the journey in faith? Like that's just it's really powerful.
Thanks, Billy, for those kind words, and I feel seen in that. There's a lot I could say about why that touches me, and I think a lot of times what touches you, your tears lead you to your calling and to what God's destined for you to do, and it does deeply touch not just my soul but my spirit
Right?
when I think about not just people's life transformation, but the value that is beyond our ability to articulate of an eternal soul before God. And it's honestly like tying back into our conversation on the prayer room. It's like when we get revelation of from being in the presence of God of what eternity is, it compels our heart to understand what is valuable in this world. And I was talking with somebody today. They were asking me some questions about suffering that they were experiencing in their life, where they'd had some difficult things that they felt like, okay, they're trusting God to protect them from these things, but they're not experiencing God's protection. And then in our own family, we've experienced that regarding we're trusting God for healing and health, but we're not experiencing the fullness of
Right.
what I would preach and say for years. Like this is who God is. And it doesn't mean those things are contradictory. It just means there's this tension between the fallen world and brokenness. And so as we were talking through basically, why do bad things happen to good people? And if God is good,
Yeah.
why do bad things happen? I said, at the end of the day, though we might suffer a little bit, it can't be a cliche to say the light and momentary afflictions of this life are really producing an eternal weight of glory. And
Yeah.
when I think about that person who, maybe their drug addiction has brought them to Jesus, or their struggle with their sexuality, or for me, like dealing with brokenness in family relation, it drove me to Jesus. The hardest things in my life that were suffering and painful, they drove me to Jesus. And that was ended up being the best thing in my life. Because if it weren't for those hard things driving me to Jesus, I wouldn't have the assurance of an eternal life that is going to be with him, that's going to be with him in paradise. And I'm at risk at rambling in this, but when we really think about everybody's an eternal being and we're all going somewhere, either paradise with God or eternal separation.
Mm,
And this moment, like you and I are going to be together forever as friends and brothers, far longer than we've ever been together in this earth.
right.
But I have family members that's not true of. We're going to be
Right.
separated, and that's the tears of joy and the tears of sadness of like that person. If there's not a moment in their life of decision, the horror of what they're going to experience. And we don't like to think about that. We like to look away from that. But when we look to that and look at that and then it brings incredible joy to the ones that say yes, and incredible heartbreak when people turn away and say no. I don't
Yeah.
know how to say it differently.
But I think your point is that when you see a soul and the value of that soul and that person gets transformed, it touches that deep place of understanding revelation and love and just purpose, like deep purpose. It's just it's really I think it's really powerful. And
Well, I'll interrupt you there, just saying
yeah,
even the transformation speaks of that eternal thing. That's what touches me, I think, about the transformation, like that
yeah,
whoever the young woman was that on her birthday came
yeah,
in because she wanted to feel the touch of God on her soul. Like that's a
yeah. It's perfect.
that's a beautiful thing, but that made her make a decision to follow Jesus, and now she's gonna be in eternity forever. It's not just like a quaint anecdote. Like
Yeah, no, it's
the
eternal.
most the most important decision of her entire life, more important than who she'll marry, more important than her job, more important than anything,
Yeah,
that she made
yeah,
that decision. And I just go, the beauty of that is hard to articulate. Like,
totally. I love that you brought up the suffering point. We have dear friends that we know that are suffering today, and if you're happening to get wind of that around here, we love you and we care about you deeply, and we're praying for you. But I was thinking about the First John chapter 5, verse 14. This is the victory that overcomes the world, our faith.
mm,
And and you know, sometimes we think the outcomes of the faith of our faith are what's the victory. But I would say like faith is always victorious. Sometimes it looks like persevering through suffering. Sometimes it looks like a miraculous activity of God that manifests.
Yes.
But the victory that overcomes this world is the fact that we hold on. We stay true to him who is true, who is faithful and true. And I think that's moving my heart in a special way. Recently, I've been meditating on faith and persevering and prevailing, apprehending by faith. But even through storms, suffering, pain, the victory is that we stay trusting and hoping in God and faith in God through all that this life has to offer. This age is hard, man. And
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said, he goes, in this life, you will have tribulation. Be of good cheer. I've overcome the world, and you will too. And that's the victory that overcomes the world, our faith in him. And so,
Amen.
anyway, with that, I think we will wrap. So February 8th through 12th, he and I talk all the time, so we're just kind of chatting on what's on our minds right now. But February 8th through 12th, it's our 5 nights, 2 nights of what we're calling pre-conference rally, Gen Z, 818, and then the Presence Center Church Conference starts. Every night's open to the public. Michael Miller, Brian Williams, Corey Russell, those main nights. And February 12th is our 20th anniversary of 24/7. And I just feel like this is just a week you just don't want to miss. And I'm super excited about what God's doing. Yes, Sarah, anything on
And
that?
I'll give a preview of what I sense. And this is just, even as we're having this conversation, I think when I do my breakout, I don't know for sure what the content will be, but I feel this stirring, like that there's a ministering to those that need to grow strong in faith through suffering.
Wow.
And I think that's a big testimony of the 20 years. Honestly, there's been a lot of
Wow.
hardship over the 20 years, but how do you come out of the hardship of the journey having grown stronger through the journey, and letting the breaking and then the healing and then the strengthening actually produce in you the character of Christ. And
Amen.
so ties together our conversation. And I think that the Lord is going to have something to release to those that are having to learn to persevere through suffering, that suffering can make you stronger. And I was thinking of Hebrews 11 as you're sharing, Billy,
Yep.
just that we love that the hall of faith includes those who overcame armies and shut the mouths of lions. And we don't want to be the guy that gets sawn in two.
I said the same thing today to
But
somebody.
someone did you say the sawn in two part?
Sawn
Because
into today.
that's a
Yes.
very okay. We don't normally talk about that, so that's weird that we're in a
Yeah.
good little prophetic flow there that we both that's not one you normally reference, the sawn in two verse. No one wants to. No one raises their hand willingly and says, "I'm going to make it into the hall of faith because I'm going to be the sawn in two guy."
Yeah.
But there's someone who that was the testimony of their faith, is they were willing to suffer something horrifying for the sake of faithfulness to God. And they speculate that that was Isaiah the prophet. I believe
Mm, mm,
is
mm.
what commentators will speculate, that that was the fate of Isaiah for his prophecies. One of the greatest prophets of the eternal age. And correct me if I'm wrong somewhere out there in the internet. If you watch this, you're like, that is not wrong, but I think it might be, Isaiah. So just, it's like, hey, I want, Leonard Ravenhill used to say, I know you're trying to wrap us up, so I'll let us get back. But he used to say,
Yeah. Go ahead.
young college students would come to him and ask him for his mantle. And I actually got to have lunch with his son when I was in college, David Ravenhill, and
That's
he
wild.
quoted the same thing that I've heard Leonard say in other messages. But people would kind of go on a pilgrimage to visit him from Dallas Theological Seminary, and they would come to him and they would request his mantle for revival, for him to pray for them. And he said, people always want my mantle, but they don't want my sackcloth and ashes.
Yeah.
so
That's a word.
so all right, there we go, Billy. So
Yep. So
come to this
this is
conference, this 5 day.
sackcloth. But here's the thought: the same faith that got that guy to subdue the kingdom is the same faith that the other guy got sawn into through, by. Like, that is shocking, and that's usually outside of our rubric of what even faith is. So anyway, Rachel Thomas, we're so excited too. Can't wait to see you and your crew and everybody that's going to be joining us. All right, February through 12th, don't miss.
I Googled it, Isaiah. They say Isaiah is the one that they think was sung to.
Come on,
So
you got it right.
on
All
to
right,
that.
dude. Love you. I'll talk to you soon. See you,
Bye,
friends. God
everybody.
bless you.
Bye, fam. See you guys.